Attention F1 fans, welcome to F1 Max. Are you ready to dive into the intriguing story surrounding Nico Rosberg's retirement from Formula 1? Picture this, a world champion at the pinnacle of his career, just secured the title, and yet he stuns the world by walking away from the sport at the age of 30. In this video, we unravel the enigma, exploring the factors that led to Rosberg's baffling decision and the unexpected twists he faced throughout his Formula 1 journey. Join F1 Max as we uncover the truth behind his retirement, the impact of his fierce rivalry with Lewis Hamilton, and the rumoured conspiracy theories that still linger. Get ready for an exhilarating ride as we delve into the mind of a champion who dared to defy expectations. Welcome to the fascinating tale of why Nico Rosberg retired. Some of the fans who are newer to Formula 1 will simply know Nico Rosberg as a Sky Sports F1 analyst and podcast host. But the German's wealth of Formula 1 knowledge comes from a 10-year career in the sport. Nico Rosberg debuted in Formula 1 with Williams at the age of 20, finishing 7th in his very first race in Bahrain in 2006. The German was a former GP2 champion and so was destined for a seat in Formula 1. He joined Williams when they were a midfield team, collecting 2 podiums in his third season, before an incredibly impressive 2009 campaign, where he collected all 34.5 of the points for his team. These impressive performances eventually made Rosberg the perfect man to join Mercedes' return to the sport, partnered alongside F1 legend Michael Schumacher. Many believe that Rosberg would struggle to compete with countryman and former 7-time world champion Michael Schumacher. In fact, it was the opposite, with Nico consistently outperforming his teammate. Rosberg scored more points than Schumacher in all 3 seasons they were paired together. He was quickly becoming one of the fastest drivers in the sport, but was faced with a different test. Mercedes decided to replace Schumacher with another former world champion, this time turning to Lewis Hamilton, who was looking for a way out of McLaren. Rosberg would now have to face off against another former world champion, but this test was much more difficult. In the first 3 seasons that Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton were teammates, the Brit was the faster. Nico had to watch on as Lewis won the 2014 and 2015 F1 World titles, with Rosberg finishing in second both times. For a while, it looked like Nico Rosberg would always be the second driver for Mercedes and would be unable to properly challenge his teammate. But this was not the case in 2016. The hybrid era is often criticised by Formula 1 fans for being boring. Mercedes was so overpowering that we rarely saw a proper title fight, with Lewis Hamilton often cruising to the title well before the end of the season. 2016 was the exception. Mercedes had mastered the engine changes brought in at the start of 2014 better than any other team, so it was always going to be between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton for the title. Unlike previous years, Nico got off to an incredible start, winning the first 4 races, with Lewis claiming 3 podiums. The 5th race is infamous in F1 history, with the Mercedes taking each other out on the first lap. There was underlying tension throughout the rest of the season after this, as the pair exchanged winning streaks constantly. Nico had built up a big lead heading into the final 4 races, but Lewis won 3 of those to set up a brilliant title decider in Abu Dhabi. The gap between the two was 12 points, so it could have gone either way. Despite Lewis winning the race, Nico finishing in second was enough to secure his first Formula 1 title. At the end of 2016, Nico Rosberg had finally achieved the goal he'd been working towards since he was a child. Growing up as the son of a former F1 world champion, Nico always wanted to emulate his father's success in the sport, and he finally did that. At the time, there was no reason why his first title had to be his last. Mercedes were by far the fastest car on the track, and Nico had just showed that he could beat his teammate Lewis over an entire season. It also helped that Mercedes were keen to keep their new world champion, so he had signed a contract with the team to stay with them until at least 2018. So it was a shock to almost everyone when 5 days after he lifted the World Championship trophy, Rosberg announced he would retire. At age 31, it seemed like Nico Rosberg still had so much to give to Formula 1. So why did he retire? Considering no one saw the news coming, Nico did give a bit of insight as to why he chose to retire. Rosberg spoke glowingly about his 2016 season, saying, "It's been an amazing year for me, and for 25 years since I started racing, my goal and my dream was very, very clear. It was to win the World Championship, and I've achieved that now." But he also spoke about how tough the year was for him. Rosberg added in his retirement video, "But this year has been extremely tough as well. I really gave it everything I had. I left no stone unturned, and I'm not willing to do that again for next year. And so, yeah, I've decided to call it a day. Stop racing here. Just following my heart. You just live once, so my heart is telling me to do this." One of the things that Nico Rosberg reiterated when he retired was that he wanted to go out at the peak of his career. There is no doubt that winning the Formula 1 championship and achieving your lifelong goal is almost certainly going to be a career peak. Rosberg has since said that he did not want to carry on into a period of decline, instead wanting to walk away at the very top. In an interview, Rosberg said, "I was afraid that at some point I wouldn't be good enough and that no team would want me anymore. I want to decide for myself." It is certainly a unique way to structure your career, with a large majority of Formula 1 world champions wanting to continue on after their first title in aim of a second and third. But there is, of course, benefits to when Rosberg decided to retire. It meant the German finished his career with the perfect fairy tale ending. Rosberg was also able to go out on his terms, instead of being left without a seat later in his career. Nico wanted to make sure that he was the one who decided when he called it a day, not the 10 Formula 1 teams. Formula 1 might be the most intense and difficult sport in the world for drivers. They're away from home pretty much 11 of the 12 months of the year and have to devote every waking second to racing. The pressure that comes with being one of the 20 drivers on the Formula 1 grid is immense. Rosberg spoke about that and claimed he was losing his identity while in Formula 1. Nico said, "In a way, I gave up my identity. Everything in my life was racing. My mechanics, my engineers, my teammates, even my social environment. To put all that to zero in one fell swoop was a shock to my system. Then there was the addiction to recognition and success." Rosberg concluded, "I'd never asked myself what other passions I had. There was always just the next race." We have seen that since retirement, Rosberg has been able to become quite successful as a sustainability entrepreneur, as well as becoming a pundit for Formula 1 coverage in the UK, Germany and Italy. Nico Rosberg's time with Mercedes likely would have been a lot less stressful had he not been competing with the fastest driver on the grid, and arguably the Formula 1 GOAT, Lewis Hamilton. Rosberg is not the first Hamilton teammate to talk about how difficult it is to be driving alongside Lewis. Rosberg's replacement, Valtteri Bottas, has spoken about how difficult it is to drive alongside Lewis. Bottas said, "It was only in the last year that I could accept that Lewis Hamilton was a better driver. I always wondered how I could beat him and win the World Championship. It was quite an exhausting 5 years." Lewis Hamilton is an intense driver with incredible pace. If you make the tiniest mistake, he will capitalize on it. Nico would have put himself through a huge amount of stress and difficulty trying to compete with Lewis. There was no way that Mercedes would ever think about getting rid of their now 7-time world champion, so Rosberg just did not want to compete at that level again. The shocking nature of Nico Rosberg's retirement means there have been a lot of fan theories as to why Nico retired. One of the most popular is the rivalry between Lewis and Nico made Mercedes force Nico to retire. After the famous Mercedes crash in Spain, there was huge tension between the drivers, which was not helped by more contact in Austria later that year. The theory is that Mercedes wanted to continue forwards with the driver who is not as fast as Lewis to help Hamilton challenge for the title again. By paying Nico to retire, Mercedes could move forwards with a clear number 1 driver and not risk losing more points to incidents similar to Spain. One of the more outlandish theories is that Mercedes agreed to favour Nico and help him win the title in 2016, as long as he retired at the end of the season. Lewis Hamilton's engine failure in Sepang turned out to be crucial to the championship battle. Considering the fine margins involved with the title race, a single engine issue gave Nico the advantage at season's end. The conspiracy is aided by the fact that at the start of the 2016 season, 5 of Lewis's mechanics swapped over to work on Nico's car. Could that have been a sign of Mercedes favouring Nico over Lewis? It is much more likely that Nico Rosberg chose to retire because of the reasons he said publicly. Rosberg has looked a lot happier in retirement than when he was with Mercedes, getting to spend more time with his family as well as more time on his passions. But it is fun to have a look at some of the conspiracy theories as to why Nico Rosberg retired. So what do you think? Why did Nico Rosberg choose to retire? And how many championships do you think he would have won had he not decided to walk away from Formula 1? Why not put your thoughts in the comments below? While you're down there, why not hit the like button and subscribe? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.